Welcome to Generations at Work, where our goal is to build bridges and not walls between the different generations in the workplace. My name is Susan Davis. I'm your host, and with us today, your generational expert, Dr. Tim Elmore. Tim, welcome.
Thank you, Susan. Thanks for having me.
We are excited. We're really excited to have our guest. I want to throw this over to you to let you introduce our guest, as you've met and worked with Johnny before. Super excited that you're with us today, Johnny. But Tim, why don't you introduce our guest?
Absolutely. Well, Johnny, thank you for joining us. I knew of you. Susan and I both knew of you for a while, but you and I had the extemporaneous experience of meeting at an event in San Antonio, Texas. I
Yes.
was so impressed with just the conversation you had
Thank you.
about HR, but more than HR, just people in general at work today. And it's kind of a different day. So thanks for gracing us with your presence. I'm going to officially introduce you now, and then we're going to be off and running here.
And keep it
So,
short. Keep it short.
okay, all right. Well, in case any listener is not sure what SHRM stands for, it's the Society and Human Resource Management. It's a global association. So if you're in HR, you need to be a part of this. But they really help leaders in companies and various industries do human resources well. They have nearly 340,000 members in 189 different countries. So this is quite large. And each year, SHRM impacts the lives of more than 362 million workers. So the members are the HR leaders, and then there's all kinds of workers in various industries. So you get the idea. This is pretty big. So, Johnny, I was impressed when I began to understand who you were. And I know you want me to keep it short, but just for the sake of the listeners, I think it'd be good for them to hear your story, and then we can jump in. So you're an attorney by training. That's
Yeah.
kind of cool. Yeah.
Forgive me. Forgive me.
Yeah, yeah. And now you're in HR. Yeah, that's
That's
amazing.
right.
So you're a sought after voice in all things HR and work. You're the author, you're an author, you're the author of Reset, A Leader's Guide to Work in an Age of Upheaval. And that was a Wall Street Journal bestseller. That's kind of cool. You're recognized as one of the 300 most influential executives in corporate America, one of the most influential people shaping public policy by Washington Magazine. And you're often asked, because of your attorney background and your HR background, you're often asked to testify before Congress on critical workforce issues. And I can't think of a better person to do that. You're the author of a weekly column in USA Today called Ask Johnny. And then you and I shared the platform. I spoke right after you, and that was a hard act to follow. But
Yes.
can I just say first, thanks for joining us, and thanks for
Yeah.
this conversation we're about to have.
Well, it is absolutely my honor to spend time with you both today. I met a new friend, Susan, so I'm,
Yes,
I'm looking
yes.
forward to the next 30, 40, 50 minutes, just
That's
getting to
right.
know each other and making the world know just a little bit more about this multi-generational workforce.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Johnny, I'll start with this. When I began my career, and that was like 45 years ago, it seemed like companies might have an HR person. That was a nice luxury, back in the day. Maybe we ought to have that. Today, it's front and center.
Yes.
That's my opinion. Do you agree? And if so, why?
Yeah, so I very much agree, and I think it's we've evolved
Yeah,
not only as a profession, but workers have evolved. There was
yeah,
once a time when you had management, your boss,
yeah,
and then you, the worker,
yeah,
and there were typically no one in between. And
yeah,
so,
that's right.
frankly, uh, taking care of you, watching out for you, and ensuring that you've been treated fairly,
Yeah,
maybe not so much so,
yeah, yeah,
45, 50, 60 years ago. Fast forward, we created a whole new area of the law that began to focus on labor and employment. So,
yeah,
focus the labor being organized labor unions and the
yeah,
like.
yeah,
And then the employment are the non labor employees. And just how people were going to be treated. Employee relations became a thing about 5 decades ago. And so,
yeah,
yes, you've seen rightly,
yeah,
and not more than an evolution, it was a creation. It
yeah,
literally was a creation moment, a spark 5 or 6 decades ago. And then we've been just building it. And now it's gotten even more complicated because I'm sure we'll talk about it.
yeah,
But people's relationship with work has changed
yeah,
significantly. So,
yeah,
what we thought about work and how to show up to work and how to act at work and all of those norms have been flipped on their head, which has made this even more important to work.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, Johnny, before we really get in to talk about leading multiple generations in the workplace, I want to get in your brain a little bit. Topics that keep you up at night. What are some of these top of the mind issues you're reflecting on these days?
Yeah, that's boy. I'm up most nights because there's so many of them, right?
Yeah.
Probably number one is incivility.
Yeah.
It literally is keeping me up at
Yeah.
night. I'm sure I don't know about that you all saw what happened to Washington
Yeah.
Correspondents' Dinner
Yeah.
this weekend. We have gotten to a very, very dark place where
Yeah.
when we don't agree with someone,
Yeah.
we can justify killing them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to a lesser degree, we can justify being mean to them, holding them into contempt, holding them in contempt, just seeing them as less than a human being.
Yeah.
That used to be when we compartmentalized sort of this is your behavior at work and this
Yeah.
is your behavior not at work. It's
Yeah.
now spilled into work.
Yeah.
And so we, in this employee relations work that Tim referred to, are now finding ourselves dealing with very toxic workplaces.
Yeah.
And those
Yeah.
workplaces in the past, when we said they were toxic, it was because someone was discriminating against you
Yeah.
based on your race, your gender, your national origin, etc. Well, that's not the case anymore. Or we used to say, oh, the toxicity is because your boss is a mean person.
Yeah.
Well, the reality now is the mean person may be sitting next to you, or
Yeah.
maybe your counterpart,
I
and they are
know.
constantly making this place just drudge. Like no one wants to come to work, which of course is affecting retention, which we are all fighting to do. Even in this different labor market, we need to retain our talent. It's affecting productivity and engagement. And so all of those things keep me up at night, but they come out of and are as the result of one big problem. Our country has become mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mean. So that's probably the biggest thing. There's a second thing though that is probably sort of related to that,
Yeah.
and maybe no. I don't know. I'll just say it, and you decide if it's related to it. But it's this idea that people don't actually want to work anymore, or they
Right.
want to do as little as possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're not curious because curiosity would lead you to want to do extra because something
Yeah.
else caught
Yeah.
your attention. They just lack it. So people's relationship with work is profoundly different
Yeah.
than the world we grew up in, and it's giving me real pause. So those two.
Yeah.
I definitely hear culture toxicity in the workplace as I work with teams. Tim,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've uncovered a
Yeah.
ton of that in your
For sure.
research, and not wanting to work. You're exactly right. I hear it all the time. And Tim, maybe you can even speak to that in your research.
Yeah. Well, Johnny, I'll play off of what you just said. I'm saddened by the fact that when there is even a little disagreement, there's an adversarial relationship that's created.
Yep.
Like
Forever.
we turn into middle school children, it seems like. And I'm going, what? You're a grown up, you know? And I know that's naive to say, but it's so sad. I often say when I was growing up in your neighborhood, if you had a trouble with your neighbor, you called your neighbor. Now
Yeah.
you call the police on your neighbor.
On
Like
your
I don't even know how to have a conversation. And
That's right.
I'm sure that you see that in what you do as a macro issue here.
Well,
Yeah.
Tim, and to pull that through, it's really interesting you say that. I'm going to use that. So in work, similarly, you have a problem with a
Yeah.
colleague, you
Yeah.
call HR.
Yeah.
As opposed to just going to talk to the person.
That's
Fancy
right.
that you walk over to someone
Yeah.
and say, hey, that bothered me, or
Yeah.
let's discuss this.
Yeah.
You call HR. But here's where it gets very much a parallel between. You then get pissed off at the police officers when they
Yeah.
show
Yeah.
up. So just like you
Hmm.
now hate the police officers, you now
Yeah.
hate HR when HR comes in and does what it does. So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
a no-win proposition right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And you're right. What happened to the day when two human beings could and we still may not agree,
Yeah.
but we
Right.
can at least have the conversation and move forward.
That's right. And that's, of course, what we're pushing for.
Which goes
So,
back to, you've talked about this, no empathy. There's no empathy
No.
in
yeah.
the
Yeah.
workplace anymore. And it just makes it a very contempt place.
Well,
That's
Susan, I got to tell
unfortunate.
you, because Tim, I love you talking about empathy, but it's one of so Dr. Alex Alonso, who is our chief knowledge officer, coined this term, mepathy.
Yes.
several years ago, and it was really classic to me. I thought about it, and he says, "Yeah, the reality is everyone wants empathy toward them.
Yes.
They have
Yes.
no desire
Yeah.
to extend the grace of empathy
Mhm.
toward
Yeah.
anyone else. It's like, I want me-pathy. I want you to
Mhm.
walk in my shoes. I could give two you know what's about
Yeah.
your shoes,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
that you even
Yeah.
have feet. Frankly, that's just not my issue. And that is interesting that people have not come to grips with the fact of how lacking in empathy toward other people they are.
Yeah. No, you're so right. And of course, because of what I've done, I've always been consumed with the next generation of workers. I'm
Yes.
always thinking about the example we're setting for the 22-year-old who's just entering. I'm going, we have not shown you how to behave.
No.
And
No.
what can we expect in the future if we've not modeled it? You can't lecture it. You got to live it.
Tim, where do you think that comes from? Because I have wondered. The irony is that
Yeah.
we've got to teach people how to be civil. I don't know
Yeah.
about you all, but I don't. Maybe it was subliminally or subconsciously
Yeah.
being taught to me, but I don't remember people needing to be taught to be
Yeah.
civil.
Yeah.
Maybe 2-year-olds,
Yeah.
maybe because they
Just
fight over
learn
food
by
and
they're learning. They're learning. Yeah.
right, right. But I never, did people have
Yeah.
disputes back in the day? Yeah, but the level of incivility and therefore
Yeah.
toxicity, where do you think that's about? How do you got to
Well,
teach?
yeah, I'll just throw out my thought. This is just one guy's opinion, but as I do my work, I feel as though nearly everyone I meet feels like a victim of the system. And if
Yes,
I feel like a victim, then I deserve
that's true.
XYZ or ABC or whatever. You're not the victim,
Yeah,
but really in a sense, maybe we all are victims, but the victim mindset is
yes,
a blow to
that's
our
so true.
flourishing.
I'm
Yeah.
owed
So,
something. And it's Johnny, when you were saying that, I was like, how do we teach people the curiosity, the empathy, getting rid of the meanness? If you're thinking about it, you're probably thinking about ways we correct it.
yeah.
Yeah, let me tell you, I'm thinking about it because I haven't come up with it. We all are.
Yeah.
What we do know is we have a tagline at SHRM that says, "Better workplaces lead to a better world."
Mm,
Mm.
And the logic goes this way. Society, we need some big societal changes, getting back to the norms and the, folk ways, the ways that life, mores, the way life worked. So what we're trying to do is, if you have someone 8 to 10 hours a day held captive,
yeah.
essentially,
Yeah. Yeah.
you really do. And this, I mean, people spend more time at work awake than all other, like, so you have this time where we can actually influence
Yeah.
how they think, process,
Yeah.
navigate life. And the theory is that if we teach them how to be civil, more civil, if we teach them to agree to disagree,
Yeah. Yeah.
if we do all of that during these 8 to 10 hours, that when they go home, they will take this to their community and to their children and to their significant other, and then society writ large will be better for it.
Yeah.
So how are we doing it? As we start with talking about it, which is why I love us
Yeah.
being able to talk about this today, because we don't talk about it. It's almost
Yeah.
like we've just accepted the smog that
Yeah.
is tying
Yeah.
our lungs up, right? In proverbially speaking. So,
Yeah.
so that's one. Secondly, and Tim, this is your area of specialty, I'm sure. You've actually got to teach people
Yeah.
Hmm.
how to be more civil, as off-putting as that is,
Yeah. Yeah.
and almost unbelievable in some ways.
Yeah.
We have got to do what parents, we believe, should
Mm.
have done a long time ago,
Yeah.
like K
You're
through
right.
12 school. Like, you don't, we've got to do it now with the 20-year-old. So you have to unteach before you
Yeah.
teach.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this is what, and it's funny, someone debated with me, they said, "Why do you refer to as incivility so much? Why not be positive and talk about civility?" And I said, "Because I've got to break the incivility
Yes.
to
Yeah.
get to civility.
Yeah.
I just don't think you
I
can
love it.
jump right into civility, because you're laying it across someone who just, they're unaware. They're actually
Yeah.
unaware." And I believe that now. I used to think, well, how could you not?
Yeah.
No, I've seen
Yeah.
it. I get on the metro here sometimes in Washington, D.C., and it's amazing. Something as simple as a whole bunch of kids on a metro, an elderly woman comes on
Yes.
in
Not
a
sitting.
wheelchair, or like just whatever.
Yeah.
Not one of them thinks to move. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's where civility is. It's more than words, it's a mindset. You talk about victim
Yeah.
mindset, it is a mindset.
Yeah.
And the idea that I should be concerned about my
Yeah.
neighbor. And if I
Yeah.
read anything that suggests that my neighbor would be better off in that seat, I give
Yeah.
it to them. They don't do
Yeah.
that
Yeah. I'm sad that MARTA, our public transport in
in
Atlanta,
Atlanta.
has to have a sign to tell us how to behave.
It
Yeah.
right.
Please give your seat up for someone, And I'm
And
going,
go
yeah,
ahead. I'm sorry. I was going
no,
to say,
I'm done. I'm done. Go,
I
go
was gonna
for
say,
it.
as our leader and founder, John, he says he's leadership sad, right? And
Right.
Yeah.
that's
Oh, I
one of the
like that.
reasons what we do. We teach values, we teach culture,
Yeah.
we're teaching leadership in the workplace. And so many days, and I'm on the road with these clients. I'm hearing people say, I've never been taught this before. Why aren't we teaching this in middle schools and in high
Yes.
schools? I mean, we are through our nonprofit, but why are we not doing this at a younger age so when they get there, we don't have to have the sign on the MARTA, Tim?
Yeah, you're right.
Do you
Well,
think, do you think, guys, so just before we go there, because I'm fascinated since you all do this, how much of an influence do you think social media has had on the entirety of, because that's what, because I've been, you asked me, what do I think about,
yeah,
Susan? It's like, how did we get here?
yeah,
That I
Yeah.
often ask, because I'm like, I'm not, my daughter is not that different than I am. Like,
yeah,
kids do what
yeah,
kids do, and we all thought we had all the answers when we were 15, and then you realize you don't, and then you, right, we know the
yeah,
cycle, but there's something very different now.
yeah, no doubt. I do think
Tim, yeah, your
social media has
research.
played a much bigger role than we care to admit. That's why I love the 2 hour rule. The data shows from Dr. Jean Twenge at San Diego State University, 2 hours or less on social media a day makes you far less vulnerable to anxiety, depression, and other mental health issues. More than 2 hours, it's a crapshoot. I mean, that's a hockey stick going up with all kinds of mental health problems. And I think when we're not healthy there, all
Yes.
kinds of bad things can happen. And Johnny, going back to what you said earlier about just leading well at work and maybe workplace, when you have them for 8 to 10 hours, you can actually do some good. I had a gentleman say something to me just a few weeks ago that I thought was brilliant. Looking back, he has 2 adult children, but he said, looking back on my life, I think if I would have had a better boss, I would have been a better dad.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
powerful. Now, he's
Yes.
not blaming. He's just
That's
saying,
right.
I just saw bad leadership all day long. I was a bad leader in my house. So interesting. Yeah.
That's deep, and it's talking about leadership sad.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I just had a moment of
Yeah.
wow, that is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're so right on that. And then let me ask you. So okay, I'm going to pull this thread just a little more.
Okay.
Social media, but I've seen it looks like even our generation have
Yeah.
gotten meaner.
Yeah.
And we're not the heaviest consumers. We're not
Right.
digital
Right.
natives of social media. So do you think it's had a spillover effect from the younger, like, because that's what I'm trying to figure, because I bet you, first of all, if y'all don't know, I've never been on social media at all. I mean,
About that.
including MySpace. I just never got into those things.
I
I,
remember those days.
right? What is it? I'm like, either you know me or you don't. Like, it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like I don't spend
Yeah.
any time doing it. Now, of course, for those listening who are going to say, wait a minute, you have a half a
Yeah.
billion people on
Yeah. Yeah.
LinkedIn. That's different. And I don't manage it. That's actually managed by someone else
Yeah.
intentionally.
Sure.
But just because I have a temper, and when people say mean things, I say mean things back, and it
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
devolves very
Here
quickly.
we are in stability again.
And there it started to fight, right? But no. So how do you think, I do want to go back to that question. So how do you think that, why are we, our generation, so impacted by
Yeah.
this? Because we were taught the rules of
Yeah.
civility,
Yeah.
decorum, and all of that. What happened to us?
Well, I don't want to oversimplify the answer, but we've all become aware that the algorithms
Yeah.
that exist in Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and so forth. So we're fed echo chambering messages that make us feel even more strong about how
Yeah.
awful things are and how I've been victimized or whatever. So we claim to be the most educated generation in history, but we're acting more uneducated
Yes.
and our ability to act rather than react. So it is the sad day. Yeah.
And I'm a Gen Xer, and I feel like I have to be on with I have young kids, I have teenage kids, so trying to learn what they're learning. But I will
Yes.
tell you, my nature is I'm quick like you. I will say, I have to coach myself and
Yes.
say, what would a high road leader do? What would a high road leader?
Yeah. Yeah.
Every interaction that I make, because somebody's going to say something like, I mean,
Yes.
I'll post something about leadership and somebody will just throw something, and I'll say, well, thank you for your lens. What I want to, say something
Right.
different, but I'm like, how do we model? We have to
Yeah.
model
Yeah.
the high road leadership all the time. all the
Yeah.
time. So
Can I ask you one other thing that I was thinking about? You asked me what's keeping me up, and this third thing came to my mind. So
mhm.
I'm sorry if I'm taking us back for a
Yeah,
second.
yeah.
But I really worry about the loneliness epidemic in our
Yeah.
country.
Yeah.
I worry, and I do. Civility, yes, but the idea that so many people are truly lonely, and the pandemic, made it worse
That's
because
what
we
we did.
were locked up. But we've been in a post-pandemic world for a
Yeah.
second now,
Mm,
and some folks just haven't come back. Our
No.
children are going to these video machines, video games, and locking themselves in basements, and they
mhm.
just don't. And I think every teenager, I have a 15-year-old, as I said, and so yeah, she comes in, she goes into a room, and it's like that's her own little pod, right?
Yeah.
I get a little bit of that as normal. Susan, good luck, it's
Yeah.
coming. But but we do have a profound
Yeah.
loneliness epidemic in our
Mm,
country.
Yeah, we do. And I think part of the reason, this is just me again, social media and screens have masqueraded as community.
yeah.
It's close enough for that 17-year-old or maybe 37-year-old where we think we're having community, but we're not really having community.
Right.
Mm,
And you can do too many things behind a screen that you wouldn't do face to face.
That
And
part.
so I think loneliness has surfaced naturally with that kind of masquerade
I
going
know.
on. Yeah.
My 15-year-old and I just had this conversation, and I told him, I said, "Oh, you didn't go to youth group the other night. You didn't do." He goes, "Mom, I just don't need all the friends like my sister does." And I said, "No, Eli, you do. We
Yeah.
are we are pack animals. We
Yeah.
need each other." And he thought about it for a while, and he was like, "You are right. I'm happier when I'm with friends."
Right.
Interesting. Yeah.
But he hadn't thought about that because,
Yeah.
you know, fourth grade was the pandemic for him, and he's a more reserved person anyway, and that just
Yeah.
exacerbated the story for him
Oh, yeah.
that, hey, I'm going to be, on my screen more than I am face to face.
Which
Yeah.
is why this is a big topic in the HR
Yeah.
world. Uh-oh, let me put
Hmm.
my foot in it.
Yeah.
The debate about returning to the office or working
Yeah.
remotely
Ooh,
or
yes.
hybrid. I had to, Susan, right? Because
Do you see it different in generations, how they're showing up too
well,
with that?
yeah, everyone wants to fight it. It's interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But Susan, your point to your son was, yeah, you could do this online and have a virtual community of 50
Yeah.
friends, but if you're really honest, you're happier with people. And the
Yeah.
same holds true
True.
for coming into the office. There's proximity bias. All of the data, I'm sure
Yeah.
Doc, is there's no question that we as PACs, right?
Yeah.
That's how we operate. That we are a much better organization. And you have CEOs trying to argue that we innovate better, we do this together. It's probably all true, some
Mhm.
version of it. I don't know what percentage you attach to better innovation, better productivity, better
Yeah.
engagement. Who knows? But what we do know is couple the fact that you have this district, people want to remain uh, the ability to work remotely,
Yeah.
while at the
Yeah.
same time we have a loneliness
Yeah.
epidemic.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
almost
And
feels
mental
like
health, yeah.
what?
Yeah. Are
Mm.
we lazy? Maybe we're lazy. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah,
socially. So
something's
I want to
off.
jump into the big picture topic
Okay,
now.
big topic.
So it's managing multiple generations, or I should say, leading multiple generations at work. Johnny, I did a book a couple years ago called A New Kind of Diversity. And really,
I
that's what
know.
we're talking
A
about.
great
We
book,
know,
by the way.
yeah, well, thanks. There's ethnic diversity, gender diversity. But I think we got snuck up on by this generational diversity.
We did.
And we were raised in different times that has shaped our minds and so forth. So I'd love for you to just address this in this age of maybe 4 or 5 generations at work today. How can a HR leader, or really any leader, do better at managing this new kind of diversity?
Whew, boy, you all are gonna make me work today. No easy topic on here, right?
We got
Okay, I
you.
got it. Generations at work, and I thought this was gonna be pretty easy. Let me start by, we at SHRM talk about 6 generations in the workplace at
Yeah,
one,
yeah,
and that's for good reason, guys. It's not to be just provocative, but the Generation Alpha,
yeah,
we
yeah.
generally understand them to have been born in 2010. So they're our children,
Mhm.
Susan and I. And my daughter has a job this summer. So she
Yeah,
actually is in
yeah,
the workplace.
yeah,
And so you have some manager, the manager of the location, who's 40 something, trying to understand a 15-year-old. And then older workers have a significantly higher role in the workplace. I just read the other day, 20%
Wow.
of all workers in the US are 65 and older. 20%, one
Yeah.
in five. So it really it's not hyperbole or make, headlining when you say this, but there are six different distinct
Yeah.
generations that
Yeah.
you're trying to manage at once.
Right.
And that, as if management wasn't hard enough, right? It's
Mhm.
hard enough to talk with
Yeah.
people who I have a
Yeah.
shared set of experiences with, and then you throw in this, and then you break the divide of were you born before COVID or after COVID?
Yeah.
Were you in
Yeah.
college before COVID or after COVID? Are you a digital native versus a non-digital
Yeah.
native? I don't know about you, but
Yeah.
computers, we were writing on paper and pencil in my early
Yeah.
days,
Me
right?
Remember
too.
that big
I was
Apple
in
computer
college.
in college?
Right, right. So before a computer showed, like all of these things are they're externalities, but they have influenced how we see
Yeah.
the world. I was, it's just going to be fascinating. I was talking to a group of students just recently, SHRM's interns, about, they were talking to George Floyd and that
Yeah.
horrible moment in
Hmm.
2020, et cetera. And I said, guys, and there's this is horrible. America's never had anything. I said, time out. There was a
Yeah.
guy called Rodney King.
That's
I've
right.
lived through that. So we actually may have more in common than you
Yeah.
think.
That's
It's
right.
just that it was, 30, 40, 50
You
years
know.
apart. But they don't. So where am I going with this? Fundamentally, and I believe this is true of all of diversity,
Yeah.
that we have more in common than
Me
we
too.
have.
Yeah.
But because we have focused so much on our differences, if
Yeah.
you remember back in the day, all of the diversity language was,
Yeah. Yeah.
valuing our differences,
Yeah.
understanding, tolerating each other. I was like, who in the hell thought that was a good idea? I'm just going to tolerate Susan, right?
Yeah.
Right? We have set this up
Yeah.
for us
Yeah.
not to be able to
That's
get
right.
along,
Yeah.
right? All jokes about the millennials.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, my God.
Yes. With
And
your
Even
conversely,
intergenerational.
the
Yeah.
assumptions and jokes we make about older workers.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like we've sort of done it all. So we've created this tension, and now we have to figure out how to bring it down, bring the temperature down.
Yeah.
The challenge for me, I'd love to hear Susan and you talk about this, but the challenge is we have generally taken the best accountant and made him or her the supervisor or the manager of accountants
Yeah.
without any training. First of all, without any selection, because it could be that that accountant, as great as they are
Yeah.
technically, are just not predisposed to manage
Yeah.
people. It's
That's
just they're
right.
not wired to do that. Right. And so we've said you've done this for a long time, or you've done it really well, and therefore you're going to be the manager of people. And then
Yeah.
we don't give you any training, any development, any skills to cope.
Yeah.
And the result is we have you in the middle of a multi-generational, with all of the various dimensions of diversity, but age alone. And we're saying, good luck, fend for yourself. And we're holding that person accountable. It's insane what we've done. So the
Absolutely.
short answer, and I'd love you all short answer is, if we don't teach our managers how to manage a multi-generational workforce, shame on us.
Yeah. Wow. Well, to echo what you just said, Johnny, I talked recently to an HR leader who said, we're not doing diversity training anymore. We're doing unity training. And what he
Amen.
meant was we have 92% of our experience in common.
Yes.
Whether it's country, gender, you name it.
Right.
That's powerful when you think about it.
Unity. I love that.
And
Yeah.
John, you said something, and Tim, you've talked about this before. We focus on our differences, not our similarities. I think that's number one. But I remember my first job out of grad school, I go into this corporate environment, they take the best salesperson and they make them a sales leader. Two
Yeah.
different skill sets with zero training. They fail miserably. Then they brand them and strand them, and we move them over. And I see it every day when I am with the clients that I work with. They've never had leadership training. We don't give people not only on the job training, but we don't teach them then how to be a leader. Barely do we teach them how to be a manager, much less a leader, which are two different things, right?
That's
So, Johnny, when you consider some of these significant areas, maybe it's critical conversations, feedback, attracting talent, retention of talent, all these things. What are the biggest ones from your perspective, and where should these employers be focusing? I see it all the time, and not only here, we're a cost center, we're not a revenue center.
That's
So
right.
what gets cut? Training and development, and that's the most important thing, at least in my lens. What
I
do you offer? What's your counsel?
1000% agree that it's the most important thing. And well, so I got a little trick now. I'm tying everything to AI
Love it.
because, as you know, in the past, learning and development was the one area that you cut when things got tight. It was like, we don't have to do this.
Yeah.
But universally, people are willing to invest in AI. So I've decided to bring them together. It's my advice about how to get CEOs and your other leaders, the CFOs, to commit to these resources. First of all, we as HR leaders must be able to articulate better, even if we're in a cost center, how much we save when if we could fix the culture and
Yeah.
bring the temperature down within the organization.
Yeah.
And if we could get all of these diverse people to work together. I often say achieving diversity, a diverse workforce is good, great,
Yeah.
you did it. But the return on that investment is going to be inclusion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Once you've got everyone feeling included, because I've all of us have been in a room where there's 10 different people. Got
Yeah.
it. If they're not interacting, if you're not getting that special, then you're not going to get anything from it. You just have a picture of 10 diverse people.
Yeah.
If you really want to return on that investment in diversity, then what you do is you make people feel included, they're seen, they're valued, they're heard, and then you get all of their lived experiences on the table, and that's how you create the new product that no one saw coming.
Yeah.
That's how you get access to someone if you're selling a service, and you can get to them. Oh, because that person knows this person. Like there's so many, we have not delivered or
Yeah.
been able to articulate why this inclusion and diversity matters. That's one. My son, I have a 35-year-old son, by the way, and that's a long story. 15-year-old daughter. That's another podcast.
You started when you're 12. What are you talking about?
But he was telling me the other day that he has an older mentor, and he's building out his business. And this mentor, he said, I can't tell you the number of mistakes I didn't have to make because of that person.
Wow.
So there's this reverse mentoring going.
Yes.
And he is teaching him right now the latest in AI.
Yeah.
So they both are getting something out of this mutual benefit. They're very different, multi-generational, and I'm talking about 30 years from now.
Yes. Yeah.
But they have become like the best of friends
I love it.
because of that. And last night I took some of my, if you got to go see the movie, Michael, I took some of my daughter's her friends out last night to a movie. I have to go on a diet after this because greasy popcorn and
Extra butter, please.
it's
Thank you.
right. That's layered.
Yep.
Let's get it right.
Got it.
But the point is, watching us, and I'm going to go back to this multi-generational thing because I think it's also important. Me interacting with these younger kids and them learn, and they're like, "Well, what does that mean?" When there's a scene where his father picks up the phone and dials it, and the kid's like, "What is that?" It's a rotary dial phone. But there were so many things that were just fascinating about the moment. So therefore, let's bring that all into this idea of managing multi-generational workforces. I think the first thing we really have to do is, as I said, select better managers. And that may sound horrible, but accept that salesperson you mentioned, Susan, simply may not have the skill set to be a leader. That doesn't mean he or she can't advance within your organization, but advance them as individual contributors.
Yeah.
Don't advance them as people managers, because what we know is a bad people manager can destroy all sorts of opportunity for you and destroy people's lives, by the way. That's the biggest. You go home and you're really, really upset. I know I've worked for a jerk before, and it's all encompassing. Like it steals your joy. That's number one. The second thing we've got to do is also now teach our employees how to be managed. Remember, people have to, you can do your darndest sometimes, but given what we started during this podcast, this conversation about people's relationship with work or lack thereof, we've got to teach people that, the workplace is actually not a democracy.
Yeah, that's right.
It actually isn't, right? And we don't do enough of that. So you've equipped the manager with all of the right tools.
Yeah.
But you haven't invested in ensuring that the employees understand how said tools will be used. And I have seen that happen. And so then you got a real conflict. The cultural sort of dilemma is when the manager is really equipped properly, it can do this, but the employees are like, nope, 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 nope. And I've lived it. Someone
Yeah.
says,
Yeah.
a manager says, I need you at work on time. Well, this younger generation says, well, they have a different relationship with
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
You kind of get there within 15, 20, 30 minutes. I'm like, no, 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 that's not how it works. So
Yeah.
the manager's doing their darndest to manage the people properly, nothing unreasonable. And meanwhile, the employees are going berserk and going on Slack and going online and Glassdoor, trashing you
Yeah.
for having a work start time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fancy that. So we've got to unpack how different generations. I never would have thought, I was always taught growing up, showing up on time is late. Like you
Yeah.
just never had the audacity to roll into someone's office 30
Yeah.
minutes late, like
Yeah.
nothing happened. But they do.
Yeah.
We've
No
got
doubt about it.
And as my friend Perry Holly would say, forget rules and regulations. What are the standards and expectations?
Right.
And,
Yeah.
Right.
and I think I hear this a lot in the teams that I work with and people I coach. People don't know how to set expectations and they don't know how to hold to accountability.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
hard
their
to
biggest
do.
challenge.
That is, and then of course you're up against, and I give people managers some credit. Back in the day, I could disagree with my manager, and I'm not talking about sexual harassment
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
anything off limits. I'm saying I could disagree with him or her, and I would decide that I'm going to work there or not. I'd likely
Yeah.
stay, and I'd say, okay, I chalk that up as a lesson. I assimilate, I make this work because this is not my entire life. I'm here
Yeah.
8 hours a day, and at some point I'll get the experiences I need, I'll move on. That's not what we have now. We have an interesting phenomena of people who quit and stay.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes. That's right.
right? They got to quit and say, like, I hear you, Mr. Manager or Ms. Manager, but I ain't going to do that. You're not going
Yeah.
to make me do it. And meanwhile, every once in a while, I'm going to throw shots and go on the social
Yeah.
media things and beat you up. And I know you're worried about your Glassdoor score, so you better be nice to me and let me do what
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
We are seeing this. I just got to tell you a quick anecdote. Someone showed up to an office dressed. I couldn't figure out. You knew you were coming to work, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah. Yeah.
They're- like I got it. I didn't ask you to put on hose and a dress and a
Yes.
purse but you are at work. Like there are some
Yeah.
rules of like decorum gone. Managing through that when an organization is trying, it is, oh, God bless us.
Yeah. Crazy.
Very good.
Well, real quick, I'd love to spend a minute on the two youngest generations, Gen Alpha,
Yes.
Gen Z. Any insights for our listeners on how to lead them because of this very wide-ranging dress code / behavior code? Talk about that real quick before we start winding down
Yeah,
here.
get them early. Let me tell you, that generation Alpha, I mean,
Yeah.
literally get them early. There's
Train.
something
Yeah.
and I don't mean to knock millennials or anything, but
Sure.
there's that group in there that's just kind of hard to manage through right now. And
Yeah.
the Z's, because they were just in the workplace during the pandemic. So there's a lot going on with
Yeah.
that generation. But let me break out the what we have is all of the learning.
Yeah.
I often said if I had a kid now, I would manage him or her so differently because I've had the advantage of 35 years and 15 now. I would get this.
Yeah.
I advise every company be very intentional with the new generation coming
Yeah.
in. Be very set boundaries, period. And just establish the rules of protocol. And it may
Yes.
feel a little rigorous, but
Yeah.
it's like it's critically important. The absence of that will mean you'll have more and more of this.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing, and I'm happy, I'm going to use that in air quotes, is because we have a softer, relatively soft labor market now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of the insanity that we saw with the last generation walking in, quitting, no notice, for 5% more, like all of this craziness, is now being because we're more in a, what do they say? It's a buyer's market versus
Yeah.
a seller's market. It's a
Yep.
huge opportunity with this younger generation. What I'm finding is they're receptive to it. They
Yeah.
really are.
Yeah.
So that's on that one. Generation Z, it's not too late, but they absolutely have the serious and very distinct background of having been born during COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, raised during COVID,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
will.
Right.
They have all sorts of issues. And I don't say that in any way. If you're Generation Z, I'm not being critical of you. I'm actually coming
Yeah.
at you from a place. I went to my high school prom. I marched across the
Right.
graduation stage.
Yeah.
When I lost a family member, we attended a service. Like
Yeah.
there were things you could not do. And those were profound. I mean, you remember those. Those are very important milestone events in your life, you missed a lot of that. And so that naturally is going to change your overall worldview.
Yeah.
You said
So
something. My 15-year-old just got his first job. He goes into a fast food restaurant and takes a resume, very dressed up. He's, Mom, what do I do? And the millennial, he was a millennial, looked at him and said, dude, he said, dude, this is fast food. We don't do resumes. And my son left deflated, walked over to the grocery store. They said, we don't do resumes, go online. Then he walks into Chick-fil-A. And
there you
not to
go.
say whether you like Chick-fil-A or not,
Love
he
it.
walks in. The owner of the Chick-fil-A
Yes.
says, thank you, sir. Why don't you come sit down? Let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
It was completely different, but it was just that they didn't know. These
Right.
these two millennials had no clue on
Yeah.
how to even say thank you for coming in and applying. They've just never been taught. And he told me, he says, Mom, I just wanted this job to make money, but I'm actually learning stuff.
Shout out to Chick-fil-A. I
I'm telling you, he's
love
like, I'm actually learning stuff. In fact, he's like, in his mind, Mom, I could be an entrepreneur one. I could be a Chick-fil-A owner one day. He's 15,
yes.
So I think you're right. Get them young. I see that. Get them young and teach them and learn them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one, we've got to teach that there's dignity in work. That is number one. And that's a critical part. And I think we have such a huge opportunity with the Generation Alpha and the late Zs, because
Yeah.
they too,
Yeah.
they're coming into the market, and many of them are finishing college and into a rough economic environment. So I think that's that. And the second thing is we really do have to emphasize that work is a privilege.
Yeah. I agree.
Work is a
I agree.
privilege.
Yeah.
I love
No,
that.
it's true. We like ourselves better when we're productive and achieving something. No doubt about it. Yeah.
Johnny, any last words of wisdom? I know, and I know every listener out there is going to say, so we probably need to do another one, but
Yes.
we could spend the whole day sitting here talking about these
So
things.
true.
These are critical things that every employer out there wants to explore more.
We have a worker shortage. We have a replenishment problem in our country. As much as we talk
Yeah.
about multiple generations, there are fewer children
Yeah.
who've been born in our country over the last 25 years. So
Yeah.
this multi-generational management, generations at work thing is going to become the topic. This is not a passing topic. 20
Yeah.
years from now, given our current birth rate, we're going to have a real problem with
Yeah.
talent.
Yeah.
So I love that you all are having a conversation. I would just emphasize to everyone. And by the way, that doesn't just mean focus on the young kids. I've told you
Yeah.
there'll be fewer of them, but that means
Yeah.
you've got to make sure that older workers can work as long as they can, because we're going to need them. We simply are barely, we're at the lowest fertility rate in like modern history. We have a problem.
Yeah. No doubt. Johnny, before we sign off, SHRM has a great conference coming up, June 16th through 19th in Orlando.
Yes.
Oprah Winfrey, Simon Sinek,
Yes.
John Maxwell. Take just a minute on. I help our listeners know how they can be a part of that.
Well, we hope you join us in Orlando. We just announced Christina Aguilera is going to be the
Oh my God.
concert. Like we're bringing it hard. It is every year the world's largest convening of HR professionals, and so very excited to be in Orlando the 16th through the 19th of June. We'd invite you all, come bring your teams, because
Yeah.
there's a ton of learning. It's not just a fun time. Deep learning. You'll leave there after those 4 days with a new take on HR, and you'll know the latest in everything from AI to employee benefits to learning and development. I mean, it's where you go get your refill every year. And I find this interesting. HR people are always focused on other people's development and learning,
Yeah.
and they don't do it themselves. So I would encourage you to consider joining us.
Wonderful.
Johnny,
Johnny,
this has
thank you
been
so
great.
much. Yeah, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being here. What a rich conversation. If our listeners want to learn more about Johnny and SHRM, you can go to shrm.org, SHRM.org. And again, if you are interested in leading multi-generation teams at work, maybe you need a workshop, maybe you want to learn about leadership or coaching for your leaders, visit us at maxwellleadership.com/generations at work. You can also look up Tim's new book at thefuturebeginswithz.com. A bunch of value-added bonus materials at both maxwellleadership.com/generations at work and The Future Begins with Z. Tim, thank you always as being here and leading us through this. Johnny, again, thank you so much for making time to be with us today. And we hope to see you all at the conference in June. All right, we'll see you on the next podcast.